our meeting. So we welcome everyone to this first meeting of the month of August. Warm greetings from Adyar to all our sisters and our brothers that join us today from India and from all over the world for the joint meeting of the Madras Theosophical Federation and Pragya CS Studio. We welcome very warmly our sister dear Erica, our lecturer today, and also Dr. N.C. Ramanujachari and brothers Raman, who are the president and the secretary of the Madras Theosophical Federation. Today, Sister Erica Georgiades from Greece is going to talk to us about what's in Lucifer magazine. We were having a very nice conversation about that a few minutes ago, and we are very eager to hear, to listen to the wonderful work that the European School of Theosophy has been doing during the past months about this subject. But before we begin our lecture, we would like to make the universal prayer. So I will request our sisters and brothers to get comfortable. If you want to close your eyes. Oh, hidden life, vibrant in every atom. Oh, hidden light, shining in every creature. Oh, hidden love, embracing all in oneness. May all who feel themselves as one with thee know they are therefore one with every other. Okay, so our technical reminder of every week is please to have your microphones closed, and at the end of the meeting we will have a nice discussion with our dear sister Erica. So if you have any comment, any question, you can type it on the chat, or you can raise your hand at the end of the meeting. In the meantime, we will try to keep silent while the lecture goes on. So to continue our program, I have the pleasure to introduce Sister Erica, who is a Master of Research in Religious Experience. She's a candidate of Master of Research in Religious Experience at the University of Wales, Trinity St. David. She holds a postgraduate degree with a merit in ancient Mediterranean religions and a Bachelor of Arts, Humanities and Social Science with honors in philosophy and psychological studies. She is also the editor of FOTA newsletter and a researcher of Theosophical history. She is as well the secretary of the International Theosophical History Conference since 2018 and director of the European School of Theosophy. Sister Erica is a member of the Theosophical Society at Adyar since 1991. And from 1994 to 1996, she worked at the Adyar Archives on a voluntary basis in Adyar, Chennai. She is the chief editor of the Lucifer collection and also a deep ecologist, animal rights activist, and pro-person who tries to non-human animals. Erica lives with her husband and daughter in Athens, Greece, where she also practiced archery. With gratitude of her presence today, we welcome our dear Erica to talk us about what's in Lucifer magazine. Please, Erica, you can open your mic, please.
Thank you very much for the invitation, and I would like to extend the greetings of the European School of Theosophy to all of you and congratulate for the wonderful work you have been doing here. I'm going to share my screen. Can you see it?
Yes,
Yes, yes,
perfect.
yes.
Yes.
Okay. So today, basically, I will be talking about Elena Petrovna Blavatsky and the Lucifer magazine. This image that you can see here, it's the frontispiece done by Joma Saip, an artist from Portugal, for the Lucifer collection. We will talk about the Lucifer collection. I will give you the historical context. I will introduce you to the magazine Lucifer. I will discuss the structure of Lucifer magazine. We will talk a bit about HPB and Mabel Collins and the methodology Blavatsky and Alcott were using in the 19th century to promote Theosophy. This, as you can see, is the Lucifer collection that we are preparing, which is basically dividing. Lucifer magazine was a magazine founded by Elena Petrovna Blavatsky. And the magazine was founded in September of 1887 in London. She was the chief editor of the magazine until the day that she passed away in 1891, after which Annie Besant and G.R.S. Smith became the editors. The magazine existed until 1897, August of 1897, after which the name of the magazine was changed for the Theosophical Review. So the Lucifer collection basically consists into publishing the entire contents of Lucifer magazine divided into topics and also chronologically divided. We have the first part of the collection is the Blavatsky years, or the years that Blavatsky was the editor. And then we have the post-Blavatsky years. I think I'm listening my voice. Maybe someone is watching on YouTube also. There is an echo. And there is the post-Blavatsky years, which contains all the material published in Lucifer magazine after Blavatsky passed away. Now, what you are seeing is the volumes we have published so far. We have not released all of them. We will very soon be releasing. The first volume is Poetry, Aphorisms, and Proverbs. What we are doing is dividing the entire content of the magazine into topics. So all poetry, aphorisms, and proverbs published in the Blavatsky years is in the first volume. The second volume is entitled The Last Song of the Swan and contains all editorials, all editorial notes, and all the financial reports of the magazine. Blavatsky was also publishing books in installments inside of Lucifer, and this is very interesting fiction. She published The Blossom and the Fruit, a fictional book written by Mabel Collins, and she published also a satire written by Franz Hartmann, which is The Talking Image of Furor. Then we have the volume on Dreams, Visions, and Tales of Wonder. They were publishing a lot of dream experiences and visions on the magazine. We have a volume on ghosts, vampires, fairies, and other stories. They were also publishing related topics. We have What is in a Magazine, the volume. This is a very interesting volume because they were reviewing what was published by other theosophical magazines around the world. And we have What is in a Book. What is in a Book also contains all the book reviews published in Lucifer collection, they were reviewing books, they were publishing commentaries about books or critics. The books they will comment on, they would range from fiction to non-fiction, from philosophy to literature in general, and so on. And then we have a volume, which is Blavatsky's Companion to Theosophy, which is the first translation of Theosophy by G.R.S. Mead, is featured in this volume with the commentaries of Elena Petrovna Blavatsky. And then we have Christianity, Esoteric and Esoteric Christ and Church, Buddhism, Hinduism, and Antiquity, Blavatsky on the Gospels, Masonry, and Caspar Lavanter. These 4 books, they are ready, but have not been released yet. We believe that the Blavatsky years will be composed of around 22 or 24 volumes, after which we will begin publishing the post-Blavatsky years in the same system divided into topics. However, it's interesting to comment and to look why Madame Blavatsky would found a magazine named Lucifer. This Lucifer for the Christians is a very challenging name. It's a name that, many people, even Theosophists, they do not use today, because we could be attacked by more, let's say, traditional Christians, and they could criticize us and accuse us of being Satanists and so on. So we might ask ourselves, why Madame Blavatsky chose such a controversial title for that magazine, for Lucifer? In order to understand, we have to look at the historical context in which Madame Blavatsky founded the Lucifer magazine. Now, this is what we are going to do right now. We see that in 1884, Colonel Walcott and Blavatsky, they were touring Europe when the scandal caused by Madame Colombe occurred. The scandal of Madame Colombe in India was that she was basically accusing Blavatsky of faking the Mahatma letters. This was very serious. In November of 1884, both Blavatsky and Walcott, they returned to India. And Blavatsky, due to the scandal caused by Madame Colombe, which was all over the newspapers in India and across the world, she became very ill. In 26th of March of 1885, Hodgson from the Society for Psychical Research, who was also in Europe, in Adyar at the time, he leaves Adyar and returns to Europe without Blavatsky and Walcott having the slightest idea about what he planned to write on his report. As you know, the Hodgson report was devastating for the Theosophical Society, as he accused Madame Blavatsky of befaking the Mahatma letters. In 1885, due to the Madame Blavatsky, March of 1885 of the same year, Madame Blavatsky wanted to take the Colombe to court. However, the position of Walcott and of the board in general was that Blavatsky should not take the Madame Colombe to court, because this would create a greater scandal, and she should not do that. So she didn't. In the same month, she resigns from her position as correspondent secretary of the Theosophical Society. And still in the same month, on the 31st of March, she was still very ill. She leaves India to return no more. She was transported in a wheelchair for the SS Pehyo, and she leaves India accompanied by Franz Hartmann. Basically, she asked to take her helper, Babula, with her, but she was not allowed to. And Dr. Hartmann, he was a physician at Olcott, then asked him to accompany Madame Blavatsky in her return to Europe. Madame Blavatsky then leaves Adyar and goes back to Naples, Italy, where she stays in a hotel, very ill, alone, and of course hurt because she loved India very much, but she had to leave. In the same year, between May and June, the Hodgson report is published, accusing Blavatsky to be the greatest charlatan of the 19th century. Well, that was the final blow for her. She was devastated, humiliated all over the world, alone in a hotel in Naples. So in June of that year, she writes to Synod, still in a hotel, from a hotel in Naples, saying, open quote, "Here I am. I have no idea where I will go next. What good am I to the cause? Doubted and suspected by all. I would do more good to the cause dying than living." So you can see that she was devastated. She was devastated. Without a place to live, having left the land she loved, and the place where she thought she was going to live and die, that was Adyar. In October, in August of that year, she leaves Naples to Wolfsburg, Germany. In October of that year, Countess Wachmasters, she goes to Wolfsburg, and here is a quote from her, open quote, "In the last autumn, I left Sweden to spend the winter in a place with a more pleasant weather, knowing that Blavatsky was suffering ill and alone in Wolfsburg. I offered myself to spend some time with her." And it was there that Madame Blavatsky started writing the Secret Doctrine in December of that year. In 1887, Blavatsky moves to London, where finally she would pass away in 1891. While in London, she changed residency 3 times. She lived some months with Mabel Collins, and she moved to another place and to another place. And 3-4 times she changed. So you can imagine how difficult it was for her in the 19th century. You see, they didn't have the bags that we have today. They have trunks, and they were very heavy, you know. So she was like a nomad, going from one place to another, living as a favor in the house of one person and another. It was very, very difficult for her. And we have Francesca Arundel. She wrote in a book entitled My Guest, H.P. Blavatsky, that to live with HPB was very difficult, that she would light matches and drop them everywhere she was smoking. Francesca said that she needed to be after HPB, collecting her matches so the house would not get on fire. So Mabel Collins also wrote that HPB's nails, they were very dirty. And well, if you do not know, perhaps of course in terms of gossiping, England is ahead all of us. I mean, they have that tabloids, and gossiping is a very strong element going on in England. So HPB was really a victim of many damaging gossipings about her. And in that climate, living as a nomad without having a permanent residence, moving from one house to other, being criticized and talked about on her back, and of course she knew what was going on, she then decided in 1887, September of 1887, to found Lucifer magazine. She probably said, look, at this stage I have nothing to lose, absolutely nothing. I have been humiliated publicly. My name is everywhere as the greatest charlatan of the century. I have nothing to lose or to fear. And she goes and she founded magazine Lucifer with such a challenging name? Well, the first year of the publication, you see the cover here, HPB and Mabel Collins. Mabel Collins was actually the co-editor of the magazine together with Madame Blavatsky. And the motto of the magazine was, they took it from Corinthians, from the Bible, and it was, the magazine was designed to bring to light the hidden things of darkness. The first editorial published in Lucifer was entitled What is in a Name? And explained that Lucifer, the name Lucifer, was chosen as a name because it represents the divine spirit who sacrificed himself for humanity. The morning star, Aphrodite, Venus. To illustrate this, Blavatsky quoted Revelation, open quotes. I, Jesus, have sent my angel to give you this testimony for the church. I am the root and the offspring of David and the bright morning star, close quote. Blavatsky said that Lucifer is a ray of truth about everything hidden by the darkness. Look, pay attention for this, by the darkness of prejudice. So she was a victim of prejudice, of gossip, and she emphasizes a lot in her writings and in her publication the problem of prejudice, bias, by prejudice by social or religious misconceptions, especially for that stupid routine of in life. You see, she uses the word stupid routine in life. You see that she's very aggressive in the way that she's writing because she was hurt. And at that stage, she could no longer deal with social hypocrisy. Now, when she says by stupid routine, she meant slavery to the established opinions of the time, to conventionalities, and basically social hypocrisy. For her, the truth is a jewel that's found in great depth. On the surface of this world, all things are weighted in the false scales of customs. Again, she's criticizing social hypocrisy. The magazine intended to go beyond conventionalism, established opinions, prejudice, and superstitions to offer a jewel of ancient wisdom, a non-dogmatic approach. Furthermore, Lucifer's motto, as you saw, to light the things, to light the hidden things of darkness, emphasizes again the importance of truth in her publication. Thus, both the motto and the name indicated that truth was the main purpose of HPB. Now, what was the structure of Lucifer magazine? This is very interesting, because this is something that we do not see, we no longer see in Theosophical publications nowadays. They had editorials, and by the way, on the Watchtower, which all of you know today, that the editorial session of the magazine The Theosophist is entitled On the Watchtower. That title was given by Annie Besant when she was the editor of Lucifer magazine. She started doing On the Watchtower on Lucifer magazine, I think after 7 months Blavatsky passed away. So On the Watchtower begins in Lucifer and then moves on to the magazine The Theosophist. There is a lot of correspondence published in the magazine as well, but it was very interesting because they were publishing every kind of correspondence that you can imagine. If someone had a nightmare and needed an explanation, a psychic experience, a phenomenon, an unexplained phenomenon, also debates on consciousness, on life after life, and so on, and fiction as well. It's very interesting that early theosophists, they were paying attention a lot to fiction, and we will see further on why. Now, they were publishing articles, they were publishing fiction, satires, horror, and ghost stories, literature review on mystic, occult, philosophical, fiction, scientific subjects, and so on. They had a session which ran a part of the magazine that runs just for a few months, entitled The Pages of an Unpopular Philosopher. And the unpopular philosopher was the way that Blavatsky named herself, because she was very unpopular at the time. As I said, publications were writing that she was a charlatan, newsletters, newspapers, and so on. So she was going through a very difficult time. The financial reports of the magazine, which in the beginning is very modest and very small, just through 2 lines, just a few donations, and then grows over time. The work of the Theosophical Society, lodges, and publications of the Theosophical Society across the world, and a column on going to and fro, which they were discussing different subjects. Basically, the magazine during the Blavatsky years had this structure. Now, I will be discussing now some of the topics featured in Lucifer magazine, just to give you an idea about the spirits they were promoting. And they were having a lot of fun also. They were publishing a lot of fun things, and they were laughing, and they were having, I could say, a very good time. So it wasn't something so stoic all the time. It was something also that had a sense of humor, and it was very interesting. For example, they were publishing also social themes linked to social struggles and problems, like animal issues, the woman issues, and so on. They were empowering women as well. So in the second volume of Lucifer magazine, Gerald Massey, he published a poem entitled The Lady of Light. The poem says, open aspas, open quotes, star of the day, star of the night, how large is thy lustre, how bright, Lucifer, Lady of Light. Well, the poem was so well received that someone wrote asking if they could, if they could transform it into hymn to Jesus Christ, to a church song, and Gerald Massey refused. Of course, this is very funny. I mean, if you think to take a poem dedicated to Lucifer and transform it in a hymn to sing into a church, so they were having fun. They were also publishing a lot of subjects that had to do with the mysterious, the ethereal. For example, the magazine featured 2 poems by Katie Duncan King, the famous materialized spirit of the 1870s. The poem questions if she, open quote, can return to her old fate, and the voice whispers, never again, as if suggesting Blavatsky's glance at her Christian Orthodox past and her reaffirmation of her new faith, which was, in her case, Buddhism, or the abandoning of the spiritualist beliefs and the embracing of the ancient wisdom tradition. We have a very interesting poem, which is A Mother's Sorrow. In this poem, Bloomfield Moore, she basically criticizes the fact that a woman in the 19th century, if they would separate, they would not have rights over their children. And also the Mary Vale poem. This is a very long poem. It goes on forever and never ends. It's around 25 pages. But it is very interesting because the poem asks, what should a woman Christ do if she come, or what should a woman avatar do would she come. So you see that this was a magazine also empowering women. It was a magazine that for some time it was run by two women, and it was empowering women. Now, to give you some ideas about an idea about the editorials, you see here, this is the last song of the Swan. It's the editorial volume of the Lucifer collection, where we have published all the editorials during the Blavatsky years from 1887 to August of 1891. The reason why we are publishing, we published not until May, which was when Blavatsky passed away. But the Blavatsky years in the Lucifer collection runs until August of 1891. Is that when Blavatsky passed away, they dedicated 2 or 3 volumes, basically from June to August, all volumes were dedicated entirely to Madame Blavatsky. Now, another reason why we published the reason why the present volume has the title, The Last Song of the Swan, is that in this editorial, Blavatsky, this is the title of one of the editorials Blavatsky wrote, okay? Blavatsky discussed in this editorial the pandemic which existed during her time and eventually was the cause of her own death. Blavatsky died victim of a pandemic which occurred in her time, which was called the Russian flu or the Asian flu, and it had other names. She also discusses in this editorial, The Last Song of the Swan, some of the problems she considered it was affecting the world. And one of these problems for her was electricity. Yes, the mother of the Theosophical Society, Madame Blavatsky, she was terrified about electricity. And she published an incident that was actually published in the New York Times. She republished it in Lucifer magazine. And it's about a horse touching an electric wire and dropping dead. Then someone else touched the horse to help and dropped dead also. Then a third person went to help the person and received a powerful electric shock. And she says about the incident, open quote, "This is an uplifting prospect, and it feels in fact like it is one of the last songs from the Swan of civilization," she said. We do not know in the 19th century, when they found out that there was electricity, what was happening. Probably they had loose cables everywhere. And then, of course, a lot of people was dying because of it. Perhaps in her mind, also people, they were just too lazy to light candles and put oil in their lamps. We do not know. But her editorial considers that change one of the evils. Another problem she criticized in that editorial also is the press that has a tendency to focus on the evil and not publish acts of compassion and altruism so much, they do not emphasize goodness or what's good happening around the world very much. And this is a phenomenon that happens until today. But in any case, Theosophists and Madame Blavatsky, they were very much aware of this tendency of the press to focus only on the negative aspect of things and not on the positive. Blavatsky, she was not on friendly terms with some of the environmental and scientific changes during her time, like electricity, for example. She was promoting another kind of change, namely showing people that there is a spirit and soul. She also promoted universal brotherhood and sisterhood, aspiring to free the masses from conventionalities, as well as the simulation of feelings according to social cultural expectations, showing the importance of seeking the truth and living a spiritual and compassionate life. Lucifer also aimed to show that there is an essential unity underlying all religions and spiritual traditions, perhaps most importantly, to remind people that there is such thing as a spirit and soul. As according to Blavatsky, already in the 19th century, public thought exiled from literature all references to soul, spirit, and the divine plan. Blavatsky always emphasized that true spirituality or religion can only be understood by a deep comprehension of the essential unity that unites all beings. According to her, the mind is linked to both the human and the spiritual soul. When connected to the human soul, it reflects desires, passions, and functions in an egocentric and selfish way. When linked to the spirit, it reflects divine love and spiritual aspirations. In this way, the mind often struggles between the heights of the spiritual soul against the attachments and desires of the human soul. The occultists, said HPB, cannot serve two masters and must inevitably choose to live a spiritual or a mundane life. Consciousness is then described as polarized between the mundane and spiritual, consequently unable to perceive spiritual truths while functioning within such polarities. For Blavatsky, there are three types of truths: absolute, the sublime, and the worldly. She links the middle class society, she says, is full of false smiles, false talk, and mutual betrayal, she wrote. As long as we are imprisoned in the flesh, we can only know relative truths. And this is a very important point, because there are many Blavatskians out there, or not Blavatskians, we could say any Ians of any Christians, Hindus, and that have a tendency to believe that there is a truth in what they're studying, or that hold dogmatic views. But Blavatsky, she's very clear. She says, look, not only Blavatsky, many philosophers of the ancient world, and any truth seeker, any person who really thinks by their own, they know that we can only know relative truths. However, even the knowledge, Blavatsky says, of relative truths is not easy. In her article, What is the Truth? She says, open quote, where then can even relative truth be found? If already in the century of Democritus, an ancient Greek philosophy, truth appeared to him in the form of a goddess lying at the bottom in a well so deep that little hope was left of reaching her. Under the present circumstances, we are entitled to believe, she says, that the truth is hidden at least as far away as the invisible dark side of the moon. She never claimed, HPB, that she was a bearer of truth or anything of the kind. And she was always warning people, look, when the mind is immersed in the world of form, it can know only relative truths. And even knowing relative truths is very, very difficult. However, Blavatsky pointed out that as one succeeds in raising consciousness toward divine spiritual consciousness, one can only catch a glimpse of sublime spiritual truths, a glimpse. To exemplify this, HPB used an analogy probably inspired by Plato's cave. She said, open quote, the consciousness of man is like a sunflower, yearning for the warm solar ray. The plant can only turn towards the sun and turn, following its course, unreachable by light. Its roots remain attached to the ground, and half of its life is spent in darkness. I found this analogy so beautiful. And of course, this is a very Platonic view. Now, I do not know how many time I have. Katalin, please.
Sister Erika, still you have 10 to 15 minutes.
10 to 15 minutes. Okay, so I have to run. Anyway, Blavatsky was also publishing fiction in Lucifer. And one of the works of fiction that you can see is The Talking Image of Urur. This was a satire written by Franz Hartmann, and it's very funny. You should all read it. It's available for free online. You can access all Lucifer magazine. It's available online on Theosophy World, on the website of YAPSOP. You don't have to buy the Lucifer collection to read it. And the talking image of Urur refers to Rataramurubachi as a man with more than 1,000 years old, but looking like he had 35, because every time he was feeling that he was getting old, he would drink the elixir of life, becoming young again. This is probably a reference to the Mahashohan. Blavatsky considered literature as the heart and pulse of the public, and as such, she gave great importance to works of fiction. According to her, books do not represent a man or a person, but are the mirror of a multitude of persons. She regarded the works of fiction not as mere fictions or stories, but true predictions of what lies within the future. This is very interesting. She believed that works of fiction can predict what will happen in the future, and much of what already is born. So the production of theosophical, occult, and mystical literature was a very important element of the work of early theosophists. And we do not see contemporary theosophists producing much fiction or paying attention or discussing much fiction nowadays. Now, here we arrive at the split that happens between Madame Blavatsky and Mabel Collins. And Mabel Collins, in September of 1888, she stopped being the editor of Lucifer magazine. There were a split. The woman they fought. They had a fight. Both Blavatsky and Mabel Collins. It started for different reasons, but Blavatsky moves from Mabel Collins' house, and apparently Mabel Collins was having a love affair with the Keithleys brothers, with the two at the same time. Blavatsky calls Mabel Collins and tells her, "Look, you are not allowed the two, only one." And then Mabel Collins felt very offended. She takes Blavatsky to court for a libel case, for defamation. Blavatsky sends a lawyer representing her with a letter to the court. And when Mabel Collins sees the letter, he dismisses the case immediately. Unfortunately, the split was eventually Blavatsky expels her from the Theosophical Society. And after Blavatsky passed away, Mabel Collins wrote in one of the newspapers of England, "The modern witch is dead." And in that article, she accused Blavatsky of being a liar and a charlatan. And Blavatsky called Mabel Collins a mystical vampire. So you know that it was very sad what happened between these two women. Well, I'm going to jump here because I have not much time. Now, what was the methodology of Blavatsky in Lucifer magazine? In the magazine, Blavatsky was publishing correspondence of any person about any subject and was dedicating her time to give informed answers. No subject was out of the table. She was first fiercely promoting freedom of expression, especially when opinions were going against her. This is very important. She promoted the search for truth, universal brotherhood, and spiritual awakening. Regarding the truth, she emphasized that while we are immersed in the material world, we can only know relative truths. However, even knowing relative truths is a difficult process. She used the holistic method by emphasizing the importance of literature, fiction, and non-fiction, comparative studies, and more, while promoting at the same time spiritual illumination. The magazine Lucifer was publishing articles that boldly went against the status quo, showing how its editor and contributors were ahead of their time. HPB and others who contributed to the magazine condemned slavery, the mistreatment of women and children, racial issues, and injustices, issues that are still causing great pain and controversies today. Blavatsky, for instance, raised her voice against the hunting down and shooting of Aborigines in Tasmania and Australia, the terrible acts of cruelty inflicted against Native and Afro-Americans. She was promoting with both she and Olcott, they were very proud of the work they were doing in India into promoting interreligious dialogues between Hindus, Muslims, and Buddhists. In fact, they were very proud of a meeting. They managed to organize an interreligious meeting. And it was the first time that some Buddhists and some Brahmins and some Muslims, they were coming together and exchanging ideas and thoughts. And this was a very important aspect of the early theosophical work. In conclusion, Madame Blavatsky fought tirelessly against prejudice and personal attacks while in persistent poor health. It took a powerful pandemic to bring her down. In June of 1891, in an editorial word published in Lucifer magazine, Annie Besant announced, open quote, "The founder and chief editor of this magazine has passed into what men call the silent land, as though voices did not ring louder across a grave, and as though the thought of the living were not molded by that of the dead." This announcement was followed by an avalanche of tributes from close friends and people around the world, people who admired the old lady, as she liked to be called, and were shocked and very saddened by her death. The opinion of many was that the world had lost a great light. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sister Erica, so much for taking us down the memory lane from the beginning of the Theosophical Society and founding of the Lucifer magazine. It refreshed a lot of events, and especially during this time when, by divine coincidence, we have the birthday of Colonel Olcott and HPB both in this fortnight of the month of August. So it was really an enlightening and very informative talk, and I hope all of us are now looking forward to read these books that you will be publishing and which are available online also, the Lucifer magazine. So thank you very much. Now we open our conversation to all our delegates who wish, if they have any doubts or any questions about the subject that Sister Erica has presented in so much detail, or if they have something to add, all of you are most welcome right now. You can unmute yourself and you can speak. Okay, I see Dr. Ramanujachari, you have raised hand. Would you like to say something? Dr. Ramanujachari?
Perhaps you have to unmute him.
Yeah,
I think.
Dr. Ramanujachari,
can you open your mic, please?
Actually, he is not very comfortable with the technology. Dr. Ramanujachari, could you unmute yourself? Yes.
Yes,
Yes, yes, I am very thankful to Erika for the beautiful talk about Madam Blavatsky. Perhaps you will be surprised to know that many of the members in India do not bother about Blavatsky. They go to the later writers for theosophical understanding and all that. It is very nice that Blavatskyan thought is brought again to the readiness of our readers. I would request you to send a set of the books to the Adaya library here and also repeat a set to the Madras Theosophical Federation so that we can review that and publish in our magazines for more publicity and all that. Many of the articles of Madam Blavatsky are already available in collected writings, as you already said. But there are other articles and correspondence which we are bringing out. They will be more worthwhile for students to study and to research on the topics. I am thankful to you for all the good work you are doing, and we would like to cooperate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the kind words and comments. I will take your email with Kathleen. She will send me later on, and then I will send some material for publication also through the post office, and both through email and through the post office.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ramanujacharya, for your valuable comments, and thank you, Sister Erika, for providing that text. And yes, I think he very rightly pointed out that HPB's writings, a lot of members miss to study, but if you want to go to the...
They don't even miss it, they ignore it.
They ignore it.
That is the pity.
Yeah.
That is the pity. That's why I published Blavatsky Retold.
Yes.
In my own way.
So we need to go through that, and I think the Lucifer magazine would be a good tool for all of us to go through. And here we have a comment from Sister Rekha Nahar from Philippines, the president of TOS in Philippines, I think. If I'm not wrong, she says, a powerful talk. Thank you, Sister Erika, for letting us remember the great works and sacrifices of HPB. Thank you so much. And I totally agree with Sister Rekha here, because when you were describing the sickness and the pain that she was going through, and she had no place to stay, and she had to shift from one place to another, and everybody is gossiping against her printing and so many conspiracies. I mean, today we cannot, I mean, just a little bit of something comes in our life and we get shaken. But I mean, when you were describing it, was really, we should be really, really grateful and thankful to that great soul who did so much work for us, and we have such a legacy to carry on. And really, thank you for that, Straika. Anyone else would like to share something? We have Professor Shinde also with us, the head of Adyar Library and Research Center. Professor Shinde, would you like to say something?
Yeah, already Dr. Ramanujacharya has requested to Erika to send some magazines to Adyar Library Research Center. We too have many magazines, Lucifer magazines in our collection, the previous one, and better if you send. And the last words of H.P. Blavatsky, keep the link unbroken. So these last words are really appealing to us, and you have linked again for all of us to H.P. Blavatsky. Thank you for that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I would just like to say they are books. They are not magazines. They are very large volumes. Some of them, they have 600 pages.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, but we will see how we can send samples for the ADR library.
Okay, okay. Thank
And
you.
the words very important. Keep the link unbroken.
Yeah.
Those were the final words she said, HPB said before passing away. Thank you so much for reminding us that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor.
I would like to add, to keep the link not broken, you must make the link first. You must make the link, and then only you can think of continuing it or breaking it. And once you make a link, you can't forget about it. You can't ignore it. You can't neglect it. You cannot put it at the second place. This is what I would like to add.
I agree completely. To keep the link unbroken, we first have to have the link. It's very, very important observation. Thank you.
Good evening, Erika. I'm Shri Priya from Madras Theosophical Federation. Thank you very much for your talk. It was very impactful. Could you share with us what you felt when you were working on this project, when you were encountering this mystical personality of Madame Blavatsky? What was happening with you? Could you, if it is possible, could you share?
Thank you very much for the question, Sister Shripya. It was a very powerful, in the beginning when we started working on this project, it was very powerful feeling, I could say, for both me and Juliet. We were directly involved in the project and working on that and going through all the material, not only Madame Blavatsky, but all the writings and the way that their approach. We had to deal with very powerful energies, and it was very emotional for us. Many times we cried. Sometimes we were laughing our head off because they also were making so many jokes. Blavatsky was also very explosive. Sometimes, one day she received a correspondence criticizing an article of someone else on reincarnation. And she the critic wasn't well grounded, the criticism, and she replied to the person, look, perhaps only next incarnation you will be able to understand what the author means. So she was also very, so we had our very emotional moments, which was fun and which was sad, especially when we arrive into the years that Blavatsky dies and we see the magazine filled up with tributes, and also her link to Annie Besant was very strong. This is another thing that comes across very clear in the magazine. So it was a very intense, and it is still an interesting experience. Thank you for the question, which focus on a more our human side of the work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Shripriya, in fact, for raising that question and let all of us know how it feels to work on such a project. Because yes, we all, may have that experience that when you work on such projects, we at some level we get connected to that consciousness of the person, of the author, or that personality. Thank you so much. And we have one question, Sister Erica, regarding a part that you mentioned in your talk about the Coulomb's conspiracy against Sister H.P. Blavatsky. That the question is from Jose Luis. He says, thanks, Sister Erica, to share this part of the Lucifer magazine story. I just want to ask, what would have happened if Miss Blavatsky will get Mr. Coulombs to court in this part of the scandal? I think it's a hypothetical question. If you would like to respond.
Yeah, thank you. That's a hypothetical question. It's difficult to say, Jose. Basically, Olcott, one of the main reasons why Olcott did not want Madame Blavatsky to go to court is because he believed that it would expose the Mahatmas and put them in a very difficult position, because the court matter would be the existence or not of the Mahatmas. So the subject in question was very, very delicate. And imagine going to court and, she would have to say, okay, the judge would ask her, can you prove the Mahatmas exist? So Olcott said, look, you cannot, you should not do it. So what would have happened? I have no idea what could have happened in case she would have taken them to court, take Madame Colomb to court. But I think that the wisest decision at the time that they could take was to avoid going to a court that would end up, asking substantial proofs that the Mahatmas, they exist, and the letters would be no longer accepted because it was the letters that they were saying that was fake and all that. So I think they took the wisest decision they could take at the time.
I think it could be also one of the stairs of the golden stairs, a courageous endurance of personal injustice. So she might have endured that one and might have not allowed to go to court. So it was not a personal injustice as well as that was to happen. And courageously she endured that thing. I could think in that way. Perhaps it may be like that also.
Though I don't think it was a personal injustice either, because if she would have decided to go to court, nobody could have stopped her, even Olcott. I think she also agreed with the decision not to go to court, and then she left India. That was the most painful part for her, to leave India. She loved India very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sister Erica. Thank you, Professor Shinde. We have Brother Taral Munshi. He has raised his hand. Brother Taral Munshi.
Unmute yourself, please, brother.
Yeah.
First of all, Erica, thanks for a detailed study, and what a wonderful thing you have done. But I have a small question. Maybe it's a very different one. There is a 5th point in the structure of Lucifer magazine, wherein it is written fiction, satires, horror, and ghost stories. Just in one-liner, can you say what type of this would be?
I'm sorry, could you repeat, please?
Excuse me. The 5th part of your structure of Lucifer magazine, it says fiction, satires, horror, and ghost stories. So you must have passed through all the experience. What sort of these stories were in one line? How they were related to Theosophy, or they were general?
What the subject of the fictions were published in Lucifer?
Yeah.
Okay. They were different subjects. For example, the Blossom and the Fruit, written by Mabel Collins, published in installments, was focusing on the life of a black magician who was a woman and her many reincarnations until she reached the point in which she understands that she was treading a wrong path and all that. So basically, the talking image of Urur, it was a satire. And many theosophists, they complained about it to HPB. They said, why are you publishing such a satire, making fun of yourself and of the Mahatmas? Because Urur, the talking image of Urur was Blavatsky, And Urur, in the book of Franz Hartmann, is described as a personage, as a figure that cannot move the body. It can move only the head. So Blavatsky, at the time, she was very ill. She could not walk, in a wheelchair. And Franz Hartmann, he left India with HPB to Naples. So he created the image of Blavatsky as Uru, because she could not walk. And then Blavatsky receives this letter with people complaining to Theosophists, why would you publish such a satire, making fun of yourself and of the Mahatmas? Even newspapers in England, they were publishing about it. And then she would say, come on, you have to learn to have sense of humor. I mean, Franz Hartmann made Urur of myself, and I'm not complaining. Why are you complaining? So they had different topics. They were publishing different topics on fiction, some description of trips to the Himalayas, and many other subjects. So fiction in general for Blavatsky and for the Theosophists who work close to her, at least in the Lucifer project, was very important.
Thank you. Thank you,
Erika. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sister Erika. And while you were giving this talk, actually the word Urur struck, I think it might have struck most of us at Adyar, because I think you may be knowing already, this whole village, I mean, I've been here 2 years, so this whole village of Adyar where we live, it's called Urur village. Am I right, Dr. Ramanujachari?
Yes, you are right.
Yeah. So when you said the talking image of Urur, so maybe when they were...
Urur is a very popular book. I think it goes, the fiction is not mere fiction, it is metafiction. In the modern context of literature, we call it metafiction, not just fiction.
Okay. So it means it has some connection with the reality.
Always engage themselves in fiction, and their fiction is metafiction.
Thank you.
Blavatsky actually wrote very many stories. Yeah. We have a volume of those stories already published by us.
Okay. I think we...
Broken violin or something, I don't remember.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ramanujachari ji, for your feedback, comments on this. And now it's about time. I think if there are no more questions or comments, we should proceed for the closing of this session. If there are no more questions. Yes, I don't see any hands raised or anything in the chat. So proceeding to the end of this session, we would like to thank Sister Erika Georgiades on behalf of Madras Theosophical Federation and Pragya CS Studio for sharing with us such information and too much information about the events of the life of HPB and the Lucifer magazine. What does it contain? What's history and the project that you are doing? So we really thank you that you took time to share that with us. And we look forward to reading all those books, the collections that you have made. Also, yes.
Thank you so much, Shikhar, and all of you for being here with us today and for the invitation. I'm honored to have had the opportunity to share this project with all of you.
Thank you so much. And we also thank all the delegates and our sisters and brothers who joined from India and outside to make this a really vibrant session with their comments and queries. So, but before we do the closing prayer, we would like to share the information about the upcoming events. So, in the light of the month that has the birth of H.P. Blavatsky and Colonel Olcott both, the next joint meeting of Madras Theosophical Federation and Pragya CS Studio would be on 15th of August, that is the Independence Day of India. And the subject will be homage to H.P. Blavatsky, and that lecture will be delivered by Sister Sri Priya Raghavan at 5 p.m. Indian Standard Time and 11:30 a.m. GMT. That will be on 15th August. But next Sunday, the coming Sunday, that is on 8th August, also we will have an event organized by Pragya CS Studio in Hindi in remembrance of H.P. Blavatsky and H.S. Olcott, the life and work. It will be in Hindi and the speakers will be Brother U.S. Pandey, Brother S.K. Pandey, and a short poem will be shared by Sister Sunita Ashok. That will be on 8th August, 5 p.m. Indian time, 11:30 GMT. Do join us for both these sessions. First, 8th August is in Hindi, 15th August will be in English. And with this information, let us proceed to the end of this session today while using all our willpower and our thought power and praying for the welfare of all manifestation, humans, kingdom, plant, animal, mineral kingdom, all the beings for their welfare. May all become happy. May none fall ill. May all see auspiciousness everywhere. May none ever feel sorrow. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you once again, everyone, for joining this session and looking forward to meeting you all again. Stay safe, best wishes, and have a great Sunday evening or afternoon.